To GOP Senator Marco Rubio, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Senator, I've been reading your tweets. We all have, and I have a list of them here. Some say the worst is yet to come. He's going to come in from behind, front lines, cut off Ukraine forces from Kiev and the rest of the country. Energy prices going to skyrocket for everyone. Weakness always invites aggression. And there are a few more that people can follow you on Twitter. But you don't think this is the end, right? You think he's going to go into these regions and then push through the rest of Ukraine, or what happens after that?
Yeah, so I read the English translation of his speech. It was long, so I took excerpts of it, right? I'm not going to read that whole thing, but because he went through these long, ridiculous history lessons. But at the end of the day, what he was arguing is that there are areas that these two groups, these pro-Russian puppet groups, claim that Kiev currently possesses. It's not just the areas that they're controlling, it's areas that the Ukraine controls or Kiev controls, the Ukrainian government. And they claim those, and they're going to move on those. And when they move on those, Putin's going to, if Kiev doesn't give it up, Putin's going to say, well, this violates our mutual defense agreement. And they're going to go to war against Kiev in a broader assault. That's his plan. That's what he's setting up. And that's what he's going to do. He's not going to stop with these two little small areas near his border. And you don't need 200,000 troops with all that armor and air power and sea power to simply occupy two areas where you've already had a strong separatist presence for a long time.
Well, Senator, Joe Biden claimed that if he was in the White House, he would be the one tough on Vladimir Putin. And one of his tweets from 2 years ago, almost to the day,
when he was running
as a candidate, here's what he said. I want to get your reaction. He said, Vladimir Putin doesn't want me to be president. He doesn't want me to be our nominee. If you're wondering why, it's because I'm the only person in the field who's ever gone toe-to-toe with him. Does Vladimir Putin think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, who was dispatched there, are going toe-to-toe with him? Or does he see an open field?
No, he sees conventional politicians. He understands the conventional American politics. He's been an observer of it for a long time. Vladimir Putin basically believes that it doesn't matter who the president is. The American bureaucracy is what controls the government. Now, he may have had a different opinion when Donald Trump was in office because he was not a conventional politician. But I think he knows how to deal with someone like Joe Biden because he's been dealing with presidents like that operate within the confines of orthodoxy for a long time. And he knows exactly how they're going to react. People forget our presidents come and go. Putin's been there now pretty consistently for over 20 years. So, no, I don't think he's thinking about or worrying about Joe Biden and the next moves he makes.
Well, I tell you what, there's a story right now, Senator, in the Washington Post that says the White House is wrestling over whether Russia has invaded Ukraine yet, because it's not a full invasion. It's just to those
minor
two
incursion.
regions. Well, right. Because he's not gone all in yet, and so they're waiting for more sanctions today. And it's short of the big sanctions, but ultimately, it was Germany about 90 minutes ago that pulled the plug on the Nord Stream 2. That's what we should have done before.
But that's my point right there. Putin knows how to deal with these conventional political types. He's been doing it for a long time. He knew that's exactly how they would react. Because if you read what the White House was telling reporters last night, what they were saying is, Russians are only moving into areas that they've already been in. In essence, they're just doing openly what they've been doing secretly for 2.5 years. So that's not as big a deal. I mean, this is silly, but he knows it, and he's playing them. And by the time he does move on the rest of it, it'll be too late. And let me tell you something else he knows. He knows that if he does this big move, as I believe he will, this is going to increase oil prices maybe $110, $115 a barrel for some period of time.
What?
And what? Well, and the reason why it's going to be massive disruption to the global economy. Eventually, OPEC will react, I imagine, and try to make up for it, but not immediately. And again, part of his calculus, no doubt about it, is that the U.S. has pulled back from oil and natural gas exploration. It's made it harder under the Biden administration. We went from being a net exporter for the first time ever, I believe, in 2018 to once again kind of falling back in our production because of, we want to be more renewables, wind and solar and the like. That's one of the things he's calculated. Biden energy policy is one of the things that's encouraged Putin that now is the time to do it because it increases oil prices, which helps him. But he also knows how vulnerable that makes Europe and other countries. And he believes they won't be able to sustain these sanctions against Russia for long because of that.
And Americans might wonder, well, why should we care? It's happening so far away. We're not going to send our troops in. But when you look at gas prices, they're already going up. They're at the highest down in Florida that they've been since the beginning of 2022. Average $3.51. Palm Beach, it's $3.63. This is going to affect Americans.
Absolutely. And I think that's it. But by the way, when gas prices go up and fuel prices go up, it increases, it adds to prices all across the board, because everything we buy, everything we sell has to be transported by something that's burning gas or diesel. The second thing is, and there's other things people haven't thought about, Ukraine is one of the world's largest producers of neon gas, which is critical to the semiconductor industry. 90% of the neon gas used by our semiconductor manufacturers in the United States depends on neon gas from Ukraine. If that's disrupted, it's going to really hurt that industry here in the United States. They're also a huge producer of agriculture. I think number 4 in wheat, number 5 in corn in the world. That's going to raise global food prices, which ultimately will impact us as well. Anytime countries are cut off from a current source, they become your competitors in the global market for those goods, which increases prices on everybody. So we already have out of control prices. This is going to add to that in the short to midterm.
Senator, you used a phrase before we get to some domestic news as well, the confines of orthodoxy. That Vladimir Putin understands the confines of the orthodoxy through which Joe Biden looks at the world. What would be the unorthodox thing the United States of America should do right now if we wanted to prevent war breaking out?
Well, I think now we're stuck with sort of less options, but certainly early on, some of those options would have been, if somebody else had been there earlier, they would have said, okay, what is Russia's leverage over Europe? It's energy. Okay, let's ramp up energy production right now. What's their leverage over Ukraine? Well, it's their ability to move quickly and take property. Okay, let's speed up the amount of defensive weaponry we provide them. Let's help them start setting up in a more rapid scale. And I mean, months ago, this may have snuck up on the news, right? But intelligence has been warning about this for over 9 months. So we should have been preparing for this and preparing for their insurgency months ago. I think now one of the things we need to do is basically have a plan in place to recognize the legitimate Ukrainian government, whether they're in Kiev, Lviv, or across the border in Poland, wherever they are in the world. We need a legitimate Ukrainian government that we can provide assistance and help to, so that they can, one thing is to invade, another thing is to occupy and hold. And we need to make this as long, as painful, and as costly for Vladimir Putin as anything possible. Another, a Vietnam for him, another Afghanistan.
A final question.
If we don't do that, he'll do more of this in the future.
Final question about Ukraine, and that is, we're going to make it painful on him through sanctions. It's just a matter of time till the hackers, the Russian hackers, hit us. I know you have intel with your job. At what parts of the American society should we be worried about the Russian hackers? Because we know what they did to the Colonial Pipeline.
Yeah, look, I think unfortunately in the world of cyber, it's not just that they have accesses. It's very difficult to defend against us. We can do anything to them they can do to us. I just think they're willing to do things that we're not willing to do. But I would add one more thing. Cyber is a very imprecise weapon. You may think you're knocking out a pipeline, but it may turn out to be something that's much broader and much more catastrophic. And that's one of the things to keep an eye on. No one's ever conducted a broad cyber war. We've had cyber skirmishes, cyber attacks, but never cyber warfare. There is no doctrine. There is no rules for how you engage in this. And frankly, no one knows what's going to happen when you start down that road. It could escalate pretty quickly. And that's something to really be concerned about. I've been concerned about it. I've been raising the specter of it because I do think that cyber could rapidly escalate into something far more dangerous, including, unfortunately, kinetic military confrontation if you run out of cyber options. So that's something we should seek to avoid, meaning going down that road of escalation.
Yep.